6:39. Motion for the Board of Education to move into executive session in accordance with Open Meetings Law, Section 105F, employment history of particular persons, confidential, and exempt under Open Meetings Law to seek legal advice from the board's attorney. Any motion?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Reconvening, I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Really appreciate that. It's a beautiful night. So glad that you came to spend some time with us. Okay, Andrew, can you do the roll call?
Mrs. Obelix,
Present?
Mrs. Kennedy is absent, Mrs. Panico,
Oh, here, sorry.
Mr. Warshaw,
Yeah.
Dr. Adams,
Present.
Mr. Nucci,
Present.
Mrs. Donnelly, President, Mrs. Manzi,
Present.
Mr. Middleman,
Present.
Mrs. Hutchinson.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any changes to the meeting?
Do I have to join the?
Actually, there was one change. Are we adding on? We're adding on.
That discussion.
Yes.
Is that the discussion that I added on?
No, we're adding on the budget line to include extending Lego for OBMS.
Oh, right.
And adding additional club cars.
But I had sent in, also I had sent in about, I don't know if that's exactly on, so. Obviously not a big part. About the contractual thing. I don't know if I'm allowed to say contractual.
Microphone, please.
You want to do that?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, that's why I don't have my microphone on yet.
All right, so
Hold on one second. Okay, so that's exactly.
Okay. All right, so, does that go under, where does that go under?
Number 6, item 6 in discussion.
Number 6 in discussion. Okay, I need a motion and a second to approve the minutes of July 3rd, 2018, radio organization meeting, July 10th, special meeting, and July 17th, 2018, special meeting. We need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're moving on to new business discussion items. Facility advisory committee presentation with John Allen and John Gorilla.
Thank you for the opportunity. As everybody will recall, the facility committee has been meeting in excess of a year and a half at this point
For this one, right?
for capital correct, also spreadsheet correct.
Yeah.
So what I've done is just summarized everything that came out of the last facility meeting, and I did it by building comparison, and did it in very, very broad strokes. So when you see a particular line item, it's not going to necessarily translate into the exact scope of work at each building. As an example, you're going to see exterior masonry work
You need to hold the microphone.
for some of the buildings. Okay,
Can you hold the microphone?
It's turned on, John. It's not on.
Anybody's ever told me this?
I heard you loud and clear.
Okay. So, I started mentioning real quickly. You're going to see exterior masonry work in some of the buildings. In some buildings that will refer to replacing a chimney or repointing a chimney at the building. And another building such as Slocum would involve taking care of the old facade at Slocum, which is in need of repair. So, like I said, I did everything in very, very broad strokes. And I tried to do it in a simplified manner so that everybody could see across the board as to how we're going to be addressing each building relative to the other ones. These are the elementary schools. Some of the items that are on here, library refurbishments, we have a proposal to go to every single library district-wide and refurbish them top to bottom. Moving a little bit away from their current format so that they become more of a centralized location and a media center for all the buildings. We have playground upgrades included for all the elementary schools. We have sidewalks which pertain to ADA compliance so that the playgrounds are fully accessible to the entire community. We have some classroom casework, interior alterations depending on the individual scope of the buildings. So when you cross-reference this spreadsheet with the spreadsheet that we have, you'll be able to see each individual item as it goes. We have abatement district-wide. One of the things that came up about 2 years ago when we were talking about the next capital project was abatement. It's extremely expensive to try to do this type of work. When we have an opportunity to do it as part of the capital project, we can apply and get state aid on it, and we're only paying 1/3 of the actual cost because the balance is picked up by the state aid rate. We have a roof and a gutter replacement at Idle Hour. That's the awning over the bus loop. That area needs some attention. We need to reroute the drainage so it doesn't go into the parking lot. And then we see some of that exterior masonry that I was talking about, located in 5 separate buildings. Most of them are chimneys, but we also have an ADA access to the front of Pearl, as well as the sloping work I mentioned earlier. Underground electric, anybody who's familiar with the situation that occurred here 2 years ago at Central Office, we lost power to this building. The electric comes in off of a pole, goes underground, and there's a series of bolts for the electric to be serviced and everything else. We sand salt all of our parking lots in order to control the ice throughout the district. We have constant rain. All those things work their way down to these bolts, and over time, 50 years in these cases, we can have problems. It is a monumental task to do a full assessment and a very expensive process. So this is the way that we can do it, and once again get paid. It's not to say that every single building, once we do the evaluation, is going to need it, but we need to assess it everywhere. Asphalted drainage, we have a couple buildings where we still have some problems. In particular, the bus loop at Boston, the bus loop at Cherokee, and there's 2 locations in the north lot here at Sycamore that are also problematic. We have a couple small areas of ceiling replacement. 1 or 2 small areas at Cherokee and a couple of hallways at Sycamore. We have some soffit work. If you look at the exterior of Cherokee, there's a plywood soffit around the perimeter of the building. That needs to be replaced so we can keep any of the bees' nests and any kind of pests that go in there out of the way from the building. There's a request to do additional parking at Cherokee. If anybody's familiar with the Cherokee parking lot, it doesn't even need to be a special event before we run out of parking up there. So I was up there several times myself, and on average there's 6 to 8 parking spots on a regular school day. So we have a large asphalt area behind the gymnasium. This would allow us to expand into that area and capture some more parking. We have an auditorium in Sycamore, the original high school for the district. So we have an auditorium, it needs some attention. This is an opportunity to address it. Once we dress it up and do what we can to it, I'm sure it's going to be a feeder for the other elementary schools so they can do programs and events there as well. And then we have a couple miscellaneous things for loading dock reconstruction. The buildings at Bosnia and Cherokee, which are both 50 years old, the height of their loading dock does not allow us to bring a regular box truck in there. We actually have to bring everything to a curb and then offload it by hand and then pull it into the building because the slope and the angle is such that it doesn't allow for easy offloading. And at Idle Hour, we have a lot of concrete that's suspect and needs to be addressed. When we look at the middle schools, once again, you see the library, you see the abatement, that's going to be everywhere. We have the bathroom floor at Hotel Bohemia. That's problematic. This will allow us to satisfy some of the drainage issues. And we also see steam piping and abatement. Those buildings both have steam for heating, and there's a tunnel, so those pipes are suspect. They're 50 years old as of this year, so we need to do some work on those. And considering there's some abatement involved in that, it's a very costly process. To do it as a capital project makes the most sense. The LGIs in both buildings, we kind of move a lot of activities from the middle schools up to the high school because we don't have air conditioning in the LGIs. This would provide air conditioning in the LGIs and also refurbish those spaces. Once again, you see underground electric and HVAC. There is still HVAC work, even though we were finishing up a large amount of HVAC work. That needs to be done. We still have units in these buildings that are 35 years or older. So this will allow us to do some of that. It will also allow us to fine-tune some of the changes to the BMS system and add those last remaining pieces that were not included. For the asphalt component of it, you'll see that there's Ronkonkoma addressed for that. We have a problem with the bus loop over there. So we need to clean that up. We need to get some additional drains in there so we can move that water away from the curb. We have a freight elevator over at Ronkonkoma. We have a warehouse in the basement of Ronkonkoma, if people aren't aware. It allows us to buy a lot of items in bulk. And to be able to have a safe and reliable freight elevator is definitely necessary at this point. The last item there is athletic field reconstruction at Hotel Bohemia. Anybody who's familiar with the middle school knows that it is very problematic during rainy times of the year. On the furthest west side of that field, you'll actually see cattails, and on the south side, you'll see cattails, indicative of marsh. So when that field that building was done, it was done on swamp road. So this calls for raising the fields, inserting a lot of sand into the soil so it will drain a lot better, and make those fields playable on a more regular basis. When we get to the high school, once again, you'll see abatement. But you'll also see projects here for every discipline within the district. You'll see the auditorium renovations, once again a little bit of HVAC. You'll see a field house. We have such a large field complex behind the high school, and to get into the buildings, to use the bathrooms and everything else is problematic. It also causes us to have to leave the bathrooms and the building open. This would allow us to just leave the field house open instead of opening the building at all times. We also have a loading dock there. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the high school, but it's got a very, very narrow landing area. So all these large trucks that come in, they back up to the loading dock, they put their drop gate down, and when we start pulling things off, we only have about 2-3 feet tops to try to maneuver in order to safely pull everything quickly and efficiently out of the back of the trucks. So this would expand that area and allow a little bit more space to maneuver and be able to do so much more safely. Library refurbishment, guidance office. Guidance office was a lengthy conversation, but we definitely have some moisture issues on the exterior wall. We've done everything we can. We've actually brought in several vendors in here to take a look at it to see if they can do any kind of stopgaps for us. But unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be any really good viable solutions. So we're looking at replacing the exterior wall. When we replace the exterior wall, it's going to involve a whole lot of interior renovations. One will set up the rooms as, in a manner that's going to best fit the needs of the space. And it will also involve all the changes to the mechanical and everything else that's involved. There's a line item here for some music room renovations. After speaking with the staff in the music department, which everybody's well aware of the quality of the music program here. This gives us the opportunity to use the spaces a little bit more, open up some office spaces, and actually use them more for student spaces. So the teachers are actually willing to give up their office spaces in order to expand the actual areas for the students. We've talked about doing some work to the locker rooms. We've done some walkthroughs. The locker rooms are tired, they're dated, and they're not ADA compliant, so this would actually bring them into ADA compliance as well. We have a press box up there because you'll see a line item for the bleachers on the home side. We have many events that take place on the fields where we can't fit everybody in the bleachers. So this will allow us to expand the bleachers from end zone to end zone on the home side. And when we do that, we'll also address the press box. And one of the things that's been problematic also is the varsity baseball field as far as the drainage issue. Not 100% sure why we've had such drainage issues, because if you go in the backfield, it's actually one of the highest points in the entire field. I assume it had something to do with all the fill that they did 15 years ago when they created the field. But the architect has looked at it and he's come up with a solution to do some sand injection out there to also increase the drainage. So these are a couple things outside of the buildings. Central office building here and open transportation has well exceeded its life expectancy. We're constantly patching it and dealing with miscellaneous leaks throughout, so this will address the new roof on this building and transportation. It would allow us to create a maintenance building in the transportation yard. That's the same structure. And a maintenance building as well. So currently, at the high school, beneath the gymnasium, we have a large storage area where we keep vehicles, we keep the sand, salt that we use in the winter and everything else. It's far from ideal because it's directly beneath the gymnasium. So we have the ability to, with this project, to move all those pieces of equipment and the caustic material, the sand and salt mixture, into a new structure here in the transportation yard. And we have some ceiling and lighting down in front. So that was a project that was actually supposed to be part of 2014, but when we pushed it to shove, we weren't able to include it at that time. Once again, we're asking for that to be included as part of the next capital project. So it's a lot to say. So here's a real quick nutshell as to the funding piece and some conversations that have taken place over the years. The district created a capital reserves in the amount of $9.5 million. I mentioned a couple times that state aid is at 67% for the district. So at that rate, our responsibility, our obligation is roughly one third of the total cost. That $9.5 million reserve equates to $28.5 million in actual borrowing. Additionally, we had counseling here in December. They went through an entire schedule as to when the debt is retiring. The actual dollar amount on a yearly basis is $1.9 million, which equates to another $21 million of capital borrowing, predicated on the rates and everything that goes with it, but that's just broad stroke estimates at this point. That allows us to get to a $50 million project with no additional cost to taxpayers using the reserve and the debt service that's coming off in 2021, in 21-22. So that's what the committee has come up with over the past 18 months. We're at a point now where we're hoping to move it to the next stages. We're presenting it to the Board of Education and the community so that we can start getting a sense as to where the entire board sits on these projects. And so we can start getting the information necessary in order to try to move forward and actually put this out to the community vote sometime this fall.
Yes, now we open it for questions.
I have a couple,
Sure.
in case you didn't think that I would.
I should say also that I have John Grillo here as well.
Hi, John
District
Grillo.
Architect, and
Nice to meet you.
short of setting up an office, with me, he's been walking the building, he's bringing his engineers in, he's spending a lot of time getting familiar, and I'm sure he can probably do a better job speaking to each of these topics, but probably a little bit.
Not for my question. I don't have a technical one. I'm looking at the minutes that you gave me, Dean, and the first There's a lot of community members on here. I don't know how many showed up for every meeting, but in the very first one in March 6th, right? It said that there was a list of 13 locations to be considered. Recommendations will be prioritized into groups. A, obligations, B, essentials, and C, desires. When I looked at the spreadsheet, it looks like they're all in one.
Okay,
There's
so
some things that are
Has nothing
desires.
to do with Dave.
Okay,
That has nothing to do with
So
Dave.
then
If
that's
there's any
it.
minutes, they probably came from Joanne Sharp.
yes.
Okay.
So which ones were obligations, what are essentials, and what are desires?
And everything is going to be based upon each person's interpretation. So when we first started looking at this and we started looking at the capital reserve, we were looking at $28 million worth of work. At that point, we went through all the items that each of the building administrators had presented to us over the years. And we brought the architect in and he started costing out some of those items. Once we started costing out some of those items, we started realizing, well, we may not be able to do this, we may not be able to do that. Certain items over the course of time just got pulled because of their very nature. That's not to say that the board, if they chose to, couldn't turn around and say, I'd like further consideration for another topic. Absolutely, absolutely. Lighting for the upper turf field, lighting for the varsity baseball field, turf clearance for middle schools. So there was a number of things of that nature.
But you don't have a specific list of what was in each category.
We could go back to the earlier spreadsheets, and they were broken down into A, B, and C's. C's quickly went off the list, and then it was A, B. And then when we got to December and we started looking at the debt that was retiring, we had multiple conversations and we started looking at it and say, well, if the money's available, we should seriously consider moving these items from B into an A. And then we kind of got rid of the priority 1, priority 2 to fine tune it and present it at this point.
Okay. And there were parents on these committees at each meeting, or were there any,
It was mixed.
it was all mixed every meeting?
Yeah, I would not say, I think we had 22 people that were named as part of the committee, and there were
Yeah.
probably 10 who never showed up.
Okay.
But out of the remaining 12, there was people rotating in as ready to go.
Right. No, I know a couple that went to a lot of
Absolutely.
workshops.
Absolutely.
So that brings me to Sharon. How many bonds do we currently have outstanding? Okay, so I'm gonna ask you, I'm gonna fire these questions at you and then you can get us the answers. So my questions are, how many do we currently have outstanding? And the full totals. Generally straight down to each one, just the totals. How much is currently outstanding in dollar amount total? What's the range of interest on each? Just give me a range, that's fine, like 1%, then 25%, whatever it is. And the approximate payments each year for the bonds in total. Is that 1,935,000? So is that yearly or is that one particular bond?
That's one bond that is.
So that bond is,
No
and,
longer benefits.
right, so for right now, so then leave that one out. Next year, what are our payments in each year for bonds? Does that make sense? And what's the current payoff of all the bonds, which would probably be the total amount, right? Plus interest. Right, as well as payment. Okay. Which is probably a double question there. Okay. That's my questions on this. We're not voting on to do this or not do this tonight, right? This is still discussion?
Yeah, I would hope that there's going to be discussion. And that's really the reason why we need to present, and we made a push to try to present so quickly, so that any of these questions can be addressed as quickly as possible, so we can figure out timing-wise.
I don't know if I'm comfortable doing all this without Lee here to discuss all these items, because
Who's
there's,
that on the meetings?
she's okay, so she's aware of these. Okay, so we can discuss it then. I'd like the questions to my bonds first, though.
I want to go over the basic breakdowns.
Yeah,
That's how much we're spending.
on each item. Yeah, there's a lot of money.
So are you questioning anything in particular, or are you questioning?
Yeah,
libraries,
like there's a couple
auditoriums?
things, like, so for example, I'm a Duffield mom, so I know that Duffield uses a classroom as a library. and you wanna spend, Mr. Duffy, any with glasses?
Duffield doesn't use a classroom, they have a dedicated library.
Yeah, it's like a double classroom though, it's not like huge. I mean, we go in there, it's crowded.
So one of the things that actually was recommended was there is an office immediately to the north of the library, and this would actually further expand the footprint of the library, and it would bring the computer lab next to the library as opposed to down the hall. So those two things, which make a media center for what it is, would actually be located next to each other, and it would create that equity.
I'm just questioning the need for more screen time for the kids in the media center rather than reading books in a library. So that's one of my questions. A lot of parents, there's enough screen time. They want authentic reading and pleasure reading.
We're not disbanding the libraries.
No, I understand that, but you're making it more of a media center, so.
It's hardly a media center, it's like almost,
It's a library media center, it's a coordination of text.
Like what Connect Library has right next door?
yes, it's encumbering the media section, the technology section.
Right.
it's
A
almost-
So they have-
tactile piece with the makerspace. So there's a couple of
Quiet
variables.
reading in rooms.
But what if, I need like a rationale for doing that, especially when we pay taxes for the Connect Library, and they have such an extensive media center for teens now too with virtual reality. I mean, so what are we adding by doing this except?
Okay, so
I'll send that information to you, the presentation that I made at the facilities.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to see that. And then, also, I'd like to maybe take a walk with you and see all the auditoriums, because that seems to be the biggest expense. Mark, yes? Would you like to do that with me?
they are large expenses,
Yeah,
there's no
they're
doubt about it.
I know.
It's a lot of money.
It's a
How
lot.
did you come up with that figure?
So Mr. Grillo has done auditorium refurbishments in multiple districts. He actually brought several, what do you call it? Several renderings as to what they look like and everything else. So based on the discussions, whether it was, one of the first things that we had to do is change the acoustics. The acoustics in that room are stifling and almost work backwards. You can stand in the back, and if you talk in the back, you can hear it on the stage. If someone's talking on the stage, you can't hear it in the back. The acoustics in that space are absolutely flipped, based upon the way the walls are designed, based upon the low ceiling and a whole lot of other things as well. So John Grillo has assessed that. He's brought in, brought in his people, he's looked at it,
You have preliminary plans, like a drawing or something?
we have just ideas, I'm sorry, no, just ideas.
Just ideas.
Preliminary plans, first have to do the budgets, together with the followers, essential on the general scope. And the scope is in that, I don't know if they have. this-
Yeah, no, I have that.
Yeah.
But the overall scope for each project, very broad strokes,
Yeah, super cool.
associated with the dollar amounts.
And one of
Yeah, and the
big-
seating is not included, correct? 'Cause I know going to the
At
high
this-
school,
at
the
this point,
chairs,
it's
they're
definitely
broken.
Yeah,
The chairs are broken, that's a part that, if it's not included, it probably should be fixed.
so those are items that we can add as an alternate. We can add, the side seating as an alternate. We can look at it, once we get creative, we can do all that kind of stuff. When we start looking at the auditoriums, it's a starting point. One of the things that I can really appreciate about what Mr. Bill has done so far is he doesn't do anything in a vacuum. We're talking about making renovations to a life skills classroom. That was part of the transfer of capital. We met up at the high school. We met with, we met with Ms. Manzi. We started doing some renderings. That's only the first step. Then we're going to talk to the teachers. So when we start looking at the auditoriums, once we have a green light, once we have board approval to go the next step, then we're going to start getting into that. We're going to start figuring out, how do we market this? Well, the way we market it is by giving people the information they need in order to feel comfortable. That's what we'll do next.
So,
Absolutely.
you'll basically share these spreadsheets.
Line by line, probably not, because I don't know if it's going to really benefit everybody. Because when you look at those spreadsheets, all you can see, and
I see numbers, a lot of things,
Me too.
numbers.
Me too. But you got to remember, one, we're projecting costs 2 years out. So we're trying to anticipate what the cost is going to be 2 years out. We're incorporating 18% of the soft costs, whether it's going to be chairs, whether it's going to be some sort of internal
Even
furniture.
overestimating that, there's always change orders, it always goes higher than what's here.
Well, I will say this, and I agree, there's always change orders, doesn't necessarily mean that they go higher. It depends on what kind of allowances you factor in as well. Mr. Grillo came in at the end of the 2014 project. He has not generated change orders without finding offsets and credits elsewhere.
My other
So-
concern is that we're doing all these things without fixing existing conditions. For example, I know you're working, you've been doing this for how many years, Ed? 15, 20 years for the heating and air conditioning.
Right, so heating and ventilation, I mean,
You walk down one hall in the high school and you're in hell. You walk down another one and you're freezing.
well,
You're in Antarctica.
so that would be the board making another, that's a totally different conversation and a totally different determination.
But it's
the way
still
to
capital
go-
improvements, right?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. It wasn't something that came up in the facility committee meetings at all. Yes, the front of the building, which was new and renovated in '02, put air conditioning in the buildings. It didn't do it the rest of the building at all, nor the rest of the district.
Well, we know Johnson Controls gave us a
That had
nightmare.
nothing, Johnson Control, what they did has nothing to do with where they chose to put air conditioning equipment. The air conditioning equipment and the equipment that we have on the rooftops was all done '02.
So that's even
earlier.
separate from the heating and, from the Johnson Controls?
The way
issue?
we control it was part of the 2009 energy performance.
Okay.
And that was done with
But
proprietary.
it's still not
system.
working right, though.
Well, it's working 99% better than it ever had, and it's getting better on a daily basis. We had a problem with the high school library the other day. I called the contractor, they came in, they did some tweaks. We're now able to control the temperature, we have a graphic on the computer we never did before. We used to go in and used to hit breakers, turn power on.
Right, I know we
We
spent a
now
lot of
have
money on
control.
that system. I just want to make sure that we're fixing everything that needs to be fixed first. For example, that chair. I also know that there's a hole in one of the high school ceilings, in one of the classrooms, I don't remember the classroom number again, that's been there for over all year last year. And that's not in here anywhere.
No, but if there's a hole in the ceiling,
Yep,
are we
there's a hole in
talking,
the ceiling.
are we talking about a drop ceiling, or are we talking about?
I'm not sure, I haven't seen it. I know it, maybe we can do a walkthrough with you and
I
Nick.
sent
Hands
that,
down.
Did you send that?
yeah, I sent that to you, John, a few months back, and something about there being a bucket, one of the rooms, I think it was on the first floor in the high
Well,
school.
Yeah, I had
there was
full
a,
clearance.
there was a ceiling mounted cooling unit in one of the tech rooms. That was a problem.
That was
a
one
drop-
issue, right? Then
That
there
was a
another-
drop ceiling. I don't remember a hole. And I'll go back and look, but I don't remember a hole, whether it was anybody bring it up to me. I apologize
No,
if I missed that one, but a walkthrough,
Yeah, I'd like to do that. Can we schedule that?
yeah. I don't know if you want to schedule it through Andrea or
Yeah.
how do you want to do it, but I can make myself available at any point, whatever's easiest for you.
Okay.
Are you going to be part of that walkthrough?
He got it. I walked around with you.
That was just for the field.
I walk quickly though.
I know, I
You did the
short
field
legs.
about
so
doing
I'm
it.
just
I'll tie my
doing-
shoes.
I'm not doing 4 steps to do one, so
I'll
you
tie my
gotta slow it down a
shoelaces
little bit.
together. I'm still not gonna promise I'm not gonna walk.
All right, I might push you over though.
It's a lot of big districts.
No, I know.
All right, so while we
They
have,
will break it up a little.
Of course.
while we have John Grillo here, is there any question about the library refurbishments in all buildings?
It's a lot of money, I don't necessarily think that
I
we.
think when we walk around more with John, we'll get a better understanding
Yeah,
and breakdown,
I'm
because I got
concerned. It's a lot of money.
it is overwhelming when we look at these numbers.
So if
Are
there's.
you like steam piping replacement and asbestos abatement? I'm good.
I get your point. But the reason why you're good is because that's not something you can visualize. You just know that I'm telling you it needs to be done. When we
Well,
get into a building,
asbestos for kids.
but my point is, when we start talking about instruction, we start talking about, the actual classroom space and everything else. If we're gonna look at libraries, one, Dean created a great document regarding the libraries in the 21st century. So that's the starting point. Once we look at that and we start getting into libraries, I would ask if I could bring company with me, because I can sit here and say what we're proposing, but I can't say how it's gonna impact children. That's not the piece that I'm versed in. All I can do is, once we decide on a project, work with the architect and make sure it comes out the way everybody thinks.
So Dean, can we get all that information too, so that we can make a better decision?
Yeah, Bruce sent you my my presentation to the committee, and then I'm more than welcome to join.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see all that first. I know I didn't sit on the committees. I had people telling me things, so, but obviously I don't have the full story. But like I said, 50 million is a lot, and I do want the answers to my questions first before I agree to that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, without a doubt, 100% maybe I mean, that's the key.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, listen, the media said it would be great for our kids. And do we need to do it today? I don't know.
What do we need to be done today? What can we
Right.
put on and maybe do?
Right.
Break it down.
We have to put it all in one big fat committee. And let me ask you one other question. Doesn't this bond have to go on a ballot vote to the
Yes.
community?
See, why John is,
Okay.
why John and why Mr. Abbott and Mr. Grillo are here today to present is, in order for us to move forward now, we need the board to say, okay, this is the bond we want to present to the public. Because at that point, we will start doing walkthroughs with the public. Mr. Grillo will start making drawings and mock-up plans. Right now, this committee has worked for almost 18 months to say, this is where we're landing, and they're presenting it to you. So really, Lisa's here, I'm trying to see if there's anyone else that was really part of the committee very often. There were parents, there were community residents, there were administration, there was teachers. So it was well represented, and now they have what they are saying that they feel the district needs. Now the board needs to say, yep, we feel the district needs this as well, and that gives us a green light to move forward to get ready to vote. And that's a big process.
And a big piece of structure. I mean, you say $50 million project. I agree. I'm not sitting here saying I'm trying to do a $50 million project next summer. We're going to figure out a way that we can phase it. We're not going to do all the work out in one shot. We're going to do it in a multi-year process. One, because the debt doesn't retire until 2120. So we need to make sure that we're not awarding work, that we need that money, because otherwise we're going to have to double hit the budget.
So if we hold this decision off until August, that's not going to kill anything, until I get the information that I need to do the walkthroughs, correct?
I don't see that.
Right?
It's more,
Just so I can feel more comfortable. I don't necessarily have a problem improving our buildings. I mean, I think anything that we do to help the kids learn better is good. I just want to have all the information before I say it.
being more comfortable is more important than finishing on a specific date.
If we put something out there, we also want to make it really public, we think is going to accept it.
Totally agree.
Right.
So if we put something out there just to put it out there, and it gets denied, what can we do?
Right, then we have to go back to square one after 18 months of all the community's work, so I don't want to do that either.
Yep, that is good.
No, it is a big process, because once you say, this is what we open, we're accepting the facilities committee, or we're amending their proposal, whichever one we decide to do,
Right.
we would then begin to open up the buildings to community tours, and we would have the spreadsheet, we'd have pictures, this is what it looks like, come on, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, come and see the different buildings.
Do I have to
And
pay you all the time? No.
And we would, but that's a big part of the process, is letting the community see the need that we've seen as the facilities advisory committee, walking through the buildings and discussions, and really the 21st century learning environment that we want to make for our kids. Because it is a process, and so you're never going to build in one summer, it's going to be 3-4 years that you're going to build, so, but once you say green light, we hit the ground running with getting syntax on, Mr. Will will start doing drawings and mock-ups, we'll bring the community in and let them see what we see. So it's a big process.
Yeah.
So, but August will probably be more like, the earliest we could potentially go for a vote would be in November.
Well, we can figure we can figure that in as well.
Do we have a plan also to maintain everything that we do, so it's up to par and stays? Remember when we talked about the baseball fields? How, look at what we did with the Boston field, and I'm not saying we need to do it, but to make it so it stays up to par, we're not throwing money, good money after good money.
Hands down. Since I arrived, one of the things I talk about is long-term planning. We've been successful in some cases, we have been less successful in others, but the board has universally been extremely supportive of that kind of mindset. I put in one of my emails real quickly was, there are things that we're very capable of doing, things that we should be doing that we've had outside companies come in and do for us. Sweeping the parking lots in the spring. It's sweeping. I'd much rather pay our our guys the time and the effort to go through it and do that work and move those monies that are contractual services more towards my heating and ventilation. You know, and last year we did that. Last year we put a lot of money towards heating and ventilation. The board gave us a lot of money to do duct cleaning, things that really had not been done to the extent that they should be on a regular basis. We tackled and we took a big bite of the apple last year. We can't do that every year. So the way to move forward is instead of spending $150,000 in 1 year, spend $30,000 every year for the next 5 years, and they come back around. That's the best way to do it. That's the way I prefer to do it. That's the way I'm trying to make all my decisions. It works better than others some years, but that is the absolute goal. And to your point, maintenance is the only, it's the most important piece of all.
That's all I have.
Okay,
Thanks, Mike.
thank you. Thank you, John.
Thanks,
Thank
John.
you.
Moving on to item 3, letter of congratulations from teachers. Linda?
So I just need a vote on whether or not the board would like to send that letter of congratulations to Ms. Gustafson and Ms. Kowalski for what they have achieved. We'll bring them in September to thank them publicly in front of the board, but if you're okay with looking for a vote on that letter, I took the opportunity to draft one for you.
That works for me. I say yes.
I have a letter of schools, I don't know what's- Oh, here it is. Yeah, I read through this one. I think that's great, no, thank you, everybody. Isn't that in our policy anyway? To thank, oh no, that's just for donations.
Donation.
Okay.
So I need 3 votes if you want me to
Is
send
there a
it.
vote?
I'm a yes.
Yes? Mark is a yes, that's 3 yes.
I don't go back.
Okay, have a discussion.
Wait, I don't go back. I know. Sorry.
Now we're moving on to board goals. Community.
Okay, board goals. Want to up there? Let me bring them with me. Okay.
Yes. Mark,
I want to add one to my board goals.
what would you like to add?
Security.
Security.
And I have a little tidbit. Linda, I'm going to give you a number. I don't know who does this, but you read Newsday the other day. There was some grant money from Mr. Ballone's office.
Yes,
I have a contact and a phone number for you.
I don't need it.
Okay. Are we going to go for that?
So, Mr. Flynn and I have been working on the rave panic button, is what you're talking about?
He's talking about, no, the money that I read in the Newsday was about connecting our cameras so that Suffolk County Police Department can see our cameras
Right.
during,
So the problem that we have, and we need to actually go through SED to see whether or not we should go for that, is our standards of security for instruction technology and technology through the district are much more stringent than most places. I had a discussion with CJ Rung, who is our interim acting department head there, and we can VPN, which is what they want to put a VPN server in our buildings.
and pay for it.
Yes, however, that VPN, we would not know what's on the other side of that VPN server. However,
What do you mean, what would be on the other side? So,
yeah, but their level of security for their servers may not be the level of security that we have to have as a school district. So
Might
we
not be
can,
as strong as what you're saying.
may not.
Well, how do we find out?
yeah, can we find that out?
So we can allow Suffolk Police to VPN right now without putting a server in, and then we would be able to control what's inside as we do with any other vendor who needs to have virtual access to our servers. So for example, we work with a company, a security company, who helps us install our cameras, and they virtually access our servers from their home base when they're installing or upgrading our cameras. We control when they come in, how long they can be in, and we have that locked down into a specific part of our server, where if we allow them to come in and put their server in, no longer do we have control. So we can already allow Suffolk County Police to VPN into our network right now. We just need to know who we would contact and who would need the password, and that would be, we can already do that. We don't need to put their server in our grounds.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, but the rate.
But I do want to add that to my board goals is to, the wording I would use is to secure, just security for our children. Have the highest level of security for our children.
Did you have any board goals?
I basically was agreeing with what the board put down, so I was gonna let you guys talk about it. The most important thing for me is that we really start to work together as a board and also with the administration and connect the teachers association. I think we all need to get a little bit of work together. I feel it's starting, but I still feel tension. I still feel a little bit of not at ease with opening with each other what we want to know, what we need to know before we make decisions. So like if Bob has an opinion on something which happened earlier, he would give it to me just so I know what's going on. And that's just basically, hey, maybe pick up the phone and say this person, this is why. So we need to communicate a little bit better. I think our communication's not where it needs to be. But to me, to be successful, we need to communicate with each other, and that's how we're gonna grow.
So that's like under transparency. You want
Yeah,
more
transparency, but with each other too.
Yeah.
And with the district, obviously, and the parents.
Well,
But
we definitely have to repair the relationship with the teachers.
Well, with each
That's
other.
a contentious relationship that,
I think it starts here.
oh yeah, well, I don't
Starts here.
want to go out from here.
No, but I'm just saying, we have to
I don't have a
start.
problem with my little lead.
I don't know.
I know.
Okay, so I'm gonna start off with my first board goal was community swim at least twice a month. I know Sable does it. I'd like to see our district do that as well. Intramurals at the secondary level, starting at grade 6. I noticed that we have Spanish club at the Basti Elementary. I'd like to see Spanish club in all elementaries. Regents preparation, we did do this one year, I'd like to see continuing, is the after-school lessons, particularly in math and science. I think 2 years ago, we did maybe a little bit of a crash course 2 weeks prior to the Regents testing. I'd like to see that happen every year. I also want to have a discussion, maybe a committee on the lunch director, maybe form a committee and have some of our, lunch.
I'm just looking into that already.
Yeah, I actually have a resume. I actually have a copy of the resume with you
All right.
of the consultant who is outstanding.
Perfect, okay, great. And of course, it's always on my board list is mental health, drugs, and bullying. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to attend Connect Our Cares, and we had 3 very bright children there. They were grades, actually going to be entering the 9th grade. So we were trying to get some ideas from them. What is it they like to see, or what programs are effective? And it seemed that they felt that a lot of these presentations, they feel like they're being spoken at and not included in the conversation. So I think that maybe we should try to look at what programs we are putting out there as far as the bullying aspect, the drug piece and everything else. They say, okay, don't do drugs, they give the presentation and then they go home. They feel like there's some pieces are lacking to it, and it's more of the interaction piece. So I don't, more of the interaction piece. So I don't know if you can maybe simulate some things for these kids so that they can get a better understanding, be put in situations where they would have to make a choice on what's best for them. But that's what I heard loud and clear. And I did a personal board goal for myself. I'm going to try to attend 2 PTA meetings a month. I'm going to try to hit all the schools. So that'll be my personal goal.
Okay, I guess I'm.
Yes.
So I loved all of my wins, except for one. Not that I didn't love that one, but I feel like we can fix that one. But I agree with Mylan's wholeheartedly. I think all of those are great for our kids. We talked about the lunch director. Now we have that resume, so Sharon's been on that. I love that. Programs and services for children led by the community. I think we have a lot of community that come up here and speak and have some great ideas. I think we need to incorporate those ideas and use them instead of just letting them speak and then we ignore them. So I definitely want to do that. Transparency has always been my big thing. As much information that we can get out there as we're allowed to legally, I'd like to do that. An example of that would be the minutes. Right now, they are released on the Monday before the meeting. I'd like them maybe to be released Thursday or Friday before. I know they're 14 days. And I know that's a law, but I think, I don't know what our leeway is. Does it have to be 14 days? So that's something I think that we need to look into and work on just to get transparency out there. We also have, I noticed that we have been using Facebook, Twitter, and what's the other one? Instagram? Instagram?
Primarily just Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, Facebook and Twitter. I saw that the board meetings were announced on those, so I really like that. I think that's great. So I'm glad that we're doing that, but I think we can do a little bit more. To say what Mark said is repairing the trust. I think that we've lost a lot of trust in administration, in the way we all communicate with one another, so I think we need to repair that. Second language, this is where I disagree a little bit with Mylin. I don't think that it should just be a club, I think it should be part of the curriculum. I don't know how hard that would be to change. It's elementary school, so if you add it in, because in a club, you're only getting 20 kids maybe. If it's part of the curriculum, you're hitting all the kids. And as we all know, when you're younger, you can learn a lot faster than me, because I'm old and I can even take a Spanish class and try to get through it. I know the dirty words though. Anyway.
As far as the club, I mean, we have to start somewhere.
But no, I understand, right,
What
I
is
understand, but
it?
can we do, instead of a club, would it be possible to put it in as a curriculum and be just as easy? I mean, I don't see, I'm not sure, but I don't see how that could be
Well, my only
a huge problem.
My only concern is just the time during the instructional day. So we would have to look at that. But
Okay,
it is something that we have talked about with some of the other board members, and it is something that we are currently investigating. So
perfect.
we're excited about. We do have something we need.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we could do that sooner rather than later, that would be great, because it is easier for younger kids to learn the language. Thanks, Dean. At the elementary level, that was district-wide. At the elementary level, I'd like to focus on the whole child, the yoga ideas that the community has given. You know, I mean, they've given a plethora of information on how we can do the whole child. I'd like to use the community input and put some of those things into practice. Less test prep. We are a district that opts out 76%. So we need more authentic learning. I don't see those numbers. They haven't decreased in the last, they've all been around 75% for the last 4 or 5 years. So I think that we need to make sure that we have more authentic learning and more support for the opt-out of that Floyd testing. I know SED may come down with some new regulations on Title I funds, but until that happens, I think we need to support all the children, and we have 76% of them that don't take those tests because they're flawed. So that's what I'd like to see on the elementary level. On the middle school and high school level, I agree with Mylin. Real solutions to bullying, input from the kids is great, so I agree with Mylin. Extra help before the last day of school. We've had a lot of parents that come up here and said, you know, the last day, there was no tutoring, and I know every class, I've been to the open school nights with 3 of my children, and every teacher offers them, but we need to make some more arrangements. Sometimes a parent can't get their kid there at 6 o'clock in the morning, or you know, it may be something during the day, during the free period, something. That's up to you guys. I just want to see more extra help, like Mylin does. Again, with Mylin, drug intervention, proactive, not reactive, get some children's input, especially at the middle school level. They're really, I mean, that's where they're starting now. Even 5th grade sometimes, but I think if we started the 6th grade level with drug intervention, we could save a lot of kids. We have too many that we're losing to drugs. Yeah, it's scary. And then less punish everything mentality. For example, when there's a bully who's bullied one child for the entire year and that kid finally has enough and fights back, everybody gets punished. That doesn't help any of the kids. It doesn't help the bully and it doesn't help the bully. So I think we need to work on that and be more proactive with that. And again, if the kids are being talked at instead of to and engaged, the app, it's not confidential. I mean, it's not anonymous, it's confidential. So So kids are still concerned about reporting on that app, not to mention that parents, a lot of parents don't want that app on their kids' phone. So we have to find better ways to help the kids that are being bullied, and also ways to mitigate the bullying that's going on from the bully itself, because there's an underlying issue. So we need to work on that. Those are my both rooms.
We want to see marketing, I know at the high school level, do we offer a marketing class? Do we offer it?
There's actually sports marketing and music marketing. I think there's actually more than one to look, but.
Okay, she asked about that. And while we're talking about the bullying, it reminded me of a question to ask, the Bridget app, is it used a lot or? Because I have a child at high school and I don't get the impression that her friends were using things about using it. I think they feel that it's not as anonymous as people are trying to present it to be. So they're not comfortable using it. All right, any other discussion on board goals? Okay, we're moving on to.
Wait, so it.
We're gonna table it to August until Lee comes back and then we'll finalize it this September vote.
Thank you.
So we'll have another discussion in August.
Okay.
Next discussion is the vacant board of education seat.
Are we tabling this too, Dudley, or are we just gonna discuss that?
I'd like to table that, Lee.
Yeah,
You guys don't want-
I'm okay with tabling it.
Okay, so now we're moving into public comment. Step up to the podium, address the board president only. You may address one or more topics at a time allotted.
Monica, can I just stop you for a second? I just want to ask the attorney something. If we wanted to go to a community vote to fill the board seat,
Yes,
there's a time frame for that, correct?
90 days.
90 days. okay.
90 days from the resignation.
From that, okay, thank you.
Okay, individuals, employees, parents, or children should not be identified by name, title, position, grade, or building. Now,
Oh, we
And-
need to do part 6, sorry, Madam.
You need to do the OPMS Lego Club, RMS Additional Club. You need to vote whether or not the board is willing to open up a budget line for that.
well, doesn't that go on a consent agenda?
Well, we can do it under discussion.
Well, I think we just discussed it right now, that we have an issue with it, so where would you put the consent?
Wait, what is, I'm sorry,
The
Madam.
Lego.
No, the Lego, we talked about that
So we
earlier.
talked about it, so
Is it
when you.
okay?
So all three of you said it was okay?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
One for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so behind me, so that this way I can, Andrew, can you put up the clock? So this way I won't feel like I'm interrupting somebody and while they're speaking. If everybody can be just mindful of the clock behind me, so I don't have to. Yeah, I'm gonna restart it, but I'm just saying, but people be mindful of the clock. I know when I go to town board meetings and they, as soon as three minutes is up, they go beep, 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 don't even tell you, they don't warn you. So just tell them to be mindful of the clock.
We'll give you an
Right,
extra
30 minutes, 10 people.
What?
We're gonna do 10 people though?
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to hold people be mindful of the clock. All right, restart the clock.
Sharon, I'm so excited to hear that you are looking for lunch program. I know that you did a great job of that on a semester and so that's wonderful to see. Couple questions. One, have we made a decision if we're going to pay for the AP testing like we should for all the students because they deserve the support that every other student receives? So what's our decision on that?
We did share costs with the Board of Education, so at this point, I know they're involved in the discussion.
You know, what do you expect to vote on it?
You can stop the clock.
Wait.
So if I recall,
Any questions?
yeah, so if I recall, I think you said it was around a ballpark of $180,000. It was over $100,000. Now, we left you with several questions. One is how many children actually take an AP test, how many kids score on an AP test, how many kids, so there was a slew of questions.
A slew.
We
Bunch.
answered those.
Oh, you did answer them.
Where?
When did you guys answer
When did
those?
you answer them?
Ronnie's FYI.
No, because there was more. After that FYI, I sent back more questions. You answered, there was like 1,700, and then you knocked it down to like 745 or something like that.
Yeah,
Then I
sure.
asked how they score on it, how many passed, how many were enrolled.
Does everybody get these questions when they're looking for funding for additional assistance to their children? And I'm just curious. because
Sorry?
Does everybody get questions like this as to how well and how poor they do when they're looking for additional assistance? Like if the kids go in BOCES, we're not questioning how well and how poor they're doing. We're questioning, is this the right fit for them? This would be a great opportunity for a lot of these kids, and there are kids who don't take it. There's definitely a system we can put in place. It could be an online reservation system. You enter your information. If you show up to attach to check-in, you're not charged. And if you don't show up, then you forfeit your money, and that's it. It's not really that difficult. I mean, we use ticketing for even the shows and computer. It's very simple. I just feel like we're very much picking this apart for $100,000 when it could help quite a few children have a leg up, and they deserve it as well. I'm sorry. And there are multiple questions, but I think like at this point,
Can I comment on it? So, as you know, I've asked questions to that effect many times over there. And I've gotten different answers throughout the thing, but the final answer was that taxpayer funds, Linda, this is better than me, but I'm just gonna go paraphrase here. Taxpayer funds, we have to be very careful about how we spend them and for what, because we can get in trouble if we spend them for one set of children. So here,
this is a small amount of money for a
I understand
small
it's,
set of
listen,
children.
believe me,
So I'm
Jenny,
very sorry.
I have
that
asked a
there are
million
immense
times,
amount of
especially,
money spent,
I
and
think
support
every
all of
child
it.
should get their caps, for their caps and gowns, it's a requirement. So when something's required, I think that the district should pay for it. An AP test is not required though.
Neither is BOCES. And neither are a lot of things that we offer our
I
children.
understand.
We offer them to our children because we want them to be a success in the future.
And we
in the
allow
best way
children
that
to
they
choose,
can.
they have the choice to take it or not. Right.
Nothing is required. So what you're actually saying is.
No, I'm saying what I was
kind of a
told.
little backwards.
So there are children here that can't afford it at all. Their parents are on social services. I've been on that end. I'm on that end. My child could not afford anything. She had to go to work and pay for it herself when the district didn't provide a discount on payments. Never was my child, no, maybe it was once or twice that we were allowed something for free, but it was mostly a discounted price. So for example, driver's education. A child that is on a free or reduced lunch was allowed to have a discount on the driver's education. That's a choice. It wasn't a freebie. We still have to pay. So I don't know the exact law on that or how it goes, but that's, I mean, like I said, I got different answers. I can't even remember a thing that we got that was absolutely free. I think it was mostly
Alright,
discounted.
so let's change that. That's my
Well, that's-
point.
it's
So
the
I'm
law
sorry
is
that
what I was
that's
told.
happens.
So I don't know
But
what the actual law
an
is.
AP
We can
test
have-
is in the same realm, in my opinion, as providing services or providing BOCES education or providing a trade class instead of a science class. You know what? It's an opportunity, and that's what it is for the children, and we should provide the opportunities for every
Well,
child.
we do
not
provide
just
it,
for some.
we just don't always pay for it, that's what I was told.
But we do pay for it quite a bit. It's a small amount of money. I mean, look, do what you want, but quite honestly, I think it's a travesty. For $100,000, we're gonna say too bad, so sad. I mean, that's ridiculous. We spend billions of dollars, well, millions, not billions, millions of dollars on quite a few things that we definitely do need, but we can't discard this too. And it's really just a small amount of money in the overall scheme of our entire budget. And I think that it would show our support as a community and as a district for the children who it would help. That's what I just think it's just something that we should really seriously consider. I think overall, out of all the decisions that we're making, this is a minimal one. That's just a personal feeling. I mean, either way, it is what it is, but I would like some serious consideration. And then a quick question, because my clock doesn't keep stopping, is the program that was brought up in place of the in-school suspension. Excuse me? The program that was brought up in the in-school suspension. Are we going forward with that, or what are we doing with that? I mean, I noticed, are we having hirings for those teachers? Are they pulling from other buildings? Like, how is that working?
I believe the posting is gonna be up in the next 24 hours.
Sorry.
I believe the posting is gonna be up shortly for a full-time teacher.
So it'll just be one full-time teacher in that ISS room,
We're looking
or whatever we're calling it now?
We're looking to hire a special education teacher, and we're looking for innocent fit. So once
excellent special education teacher is identified and you know what your content specialty is, then we can figure out what else we need to hire after that.
Right.
So the first step is the posting for the special education teacher.
And do we have an actual curriculum that has been cemented? Because I know last time they presented and it really, I mean, it had a lot of good points, but I just felt like it was kind of like, we had this very broad idea, we've gotten to this rough point, and this is, you know, it was kind of like a highlight of what we want to do, but I feel like there was a lot that was really nailed down, and I felt there was just a lot of leeway, it wasn't a lot of specifics, and, you know, I was just curious if we had moved forward in really training properly for that program, because it does need a specific type of training, and, you know, also having the equipment, if you will, in-house to have everything managed, and computers and things like that. So those are my concerns. So, because if we are going to go forward, and there are a lot of good components to that, I would like to be completely effective. You know, we don't want to start a program if we really don't have all of the pieces in place, because then it wouldn't be as effective as it could be.
I think you raised good points. I don't have the sort of justice curriculum in front of me right now. to
No,
share
no,
with
okay.
you. These are all talking points, part of the conversation. And you're right, it really does need to be staffed the proper way, because we have the proper technology, the proper connections with guidance, with YFS. These are all items that we're
And now,
discussing.
are we going to be tracking the data? I know you're numbers. Are we going to be tracking the data to see if it actually does have a positive effect on the children?
Most definitely.
Other than, because, I mean, you know, the school's been doing my assessments in a long time, so we just assume it is.
We track suspension data now.
Right.
And obviously, we'd be tracking
Right.
this as well. Because if it's effective, that's wonderful, and if it's not effective, then obviously
Do we
we
have
have
a
to look at it.
time frame that we feel that we would abandon this program? We didn't feel that it was an effective program or effective enough? Like, if we set like a goal, like, you know what, after 3 years, we don't feel that this is, according to our numbers, not that we don't feel it, but according to our numbers, it's not an effective program, and it's really not having much of an impact on our numbers to what they were prior, or will we abandon it and look for something else that might be a better fit and might actually help the children in a better way?
We're always reflecting on programs. So I think the first year is going to be growing pains, and then once it gets humming, I think we should be able to see almost an instant change in out-of-school suspensions anyway.
Right.
Because a lot will be brought in.
Right.
So we'll be able to report that to the board as we report any new program and what the findings of that are.
And that might be a good deterrent too. Get it pretty good.
They really don't want to be in into suspension. They really do. We're hoping that that's the future.
All right, thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Jenny,
Jenny, wait.
you were very passionate about what you were saying.
Just for
No, no.
sorry.
So the reason why I'm saying this is because there's legal matters for what we can do.
No, I know.
and can't do.
I'm aware of all.
And that's why we're gonna ask her to speak.
No, I'm
You
actually aware of
understand.
it, but if it's the minutia over the small dollar amount, that's
It's
what
not, I don't
needs
think
to
it's the money, that's what I'm trying to tell you,
Because
it's
that
the
seems to come
legality,
up a lot, it's the
legality.
money, but I understand.
I'm just
legality.
curious, but the legality is what I was, I wasn't arguing.
Yeah,
You know I'm
I
not
just feel
arguing.
like we should do the best for all
The best for the
children,
kids.
and every single one, I would
No, I'm
never.
not
But there's
take
legalities,
away from
that's
any
what-
child
that's what I'm
to
trying to
do
say.
what they can possibly, you know, use to be successful.
As far as answering questions, $100,000 is a lot of money. That could buy books, that could buy an assortment of other things.
Absolutely.
I could spend $100,000 on paying the AP class, I could spend $100,000 paying for something else. I have to say, anytime if I'm spending, my opinion, I have to be fiscally responsible. In my life, I was an accountant, still am. To sit there and say $100,000 is not a big deal. I think I have
Let me
responsibility.
change my phrase.
I think
It's
I
not
have
that it's not a
responsibility.
big deal, it's that in the overall scheme of our budget and what we spend for quite a
I
few
hear what you're
things,
saying, but
it is
maybe
quite honestly
that was
not
the
a
old
huge
war,
deal.
but I have responsibility to ask questions. So when you say minutia, I'm saying, okay, how many kids are taking the test? How many kids are getting twos on the
I don't
test?
feel
I
like
wouldn't be
there's
doing my
necessary
job.
questions asked about a lot of things that there should be.
Well, maybe that was prior board, but that's not me. I ask questions.
Jenny, I can tell you that when I asked for my son to go to the STEM high school, there was tons of questions. It took me months to
That
find
didn't
out
happen
the answers.
overnight.
And I had to do some of my own research and find out answers on busing and transportation costs. And I drove my son there so that it wouldn't cost the district extra money. So believe me, I know, and you know that I agree on giving the kids whatever they want. But I know that there was a legal thing that I was told that only pays for, and again, I'll let you answer that.
Well,
You know, I don't have I think the answer depends on a lot of factors. And probably one of the biggest factors is, are you giving a gift of public funds when you are paying for a student to take a private exam? I know that there is some funding available through Title I for low-income students, but that's probably through a grant or something of that nature. But what I was suggesting was maybe I could do a legal opinion to the board so you have more information relative to the legal ramifications of paying for the
That was the
exam.
terminology, gift of public funds, that's what I was told.
And that's fair, if that's the real reason, but that's the first time that's been brought up ever, and I've asked about this thing.
Well, I asked, I asked a million times, and then that was the final answer that I got. They can't give a gift of public funds. There was certain criteria that had to be.
That's what I was trying to say, they know the terminology.
You mean neither, that's why I said like.
But I was, yeah, because you can't, it's almost like you're gifting to one particular group of children and you have to think of. Yes,
Hi.
Almost on that note, I paid for 3 AP exams last year, because I had 2 different kids taking it. We're not on the free and reduced lunch list, so it's 5 people. No, I know, but you're.
all right,
Here.
no side
And
conversations,
2 drivers.
no side conversations.
A couple of things I just want to touch bases on, that have come up was, in the past, I just want to touch bases, make sure that they're getting put in place come September. The, weighting of the regions, the new, what do you call it? The new policy or procedure
that's
for
what
the
do no
weighting of the regions.
It's not do not harm, it's just a
I understand.
recalculation.
I just want to make sure it's going to be instituted in full in September. Okay. You had started, Mr. Middleton had started a homework policy change last school year also. Will that be put in place in September?
It will continue from last year.
I can't hear you, what you said?
It will continue from last year, put it in place last year.
Okay.
Homework practice.
With the regions, it's the weighting and also the transfer part. Right,
Correct.
both are going to be started come September, that kids will get the benefit of the lower weighting.
Correct.
Okay, good. The last thing that I want to touch bases on is something that was brought up last school year also, as far as medical insurance for domestic partnerships. I did do a little further research. I was asked for what the county provides, what the county requires in order to recognize it as a legal partnership. I don't have copies for everybody, but I have the affidavit that they actually have to fill out, and this, what the partners need to provide, what the couple needs to provide to the county in order to get, in order to be recognized as a legal domestic partner. And don't confuse it with being married.
No,
It's
not
a
married, right.
legal domestic partnership. I have a very good.
Do they have to be married? Is what you said?
No, legal
No,
domestic
it's not.
partnerships are different than
A
that.
good friend of mine was with her boyfriend for years and years. He was with NYFD. In order for him to cover her with his medical insurance, they had to become a legal partner. So it doesn't matter male, female.
No, my sister did, I know that's
It's a
what it
legal
is.
domestic partnership. Suffolk County has these steps. I was also questioned as far as, well, what if the partnership fails and they break up? That goes the same as
It is all the same way.
a couple can get divorced and not necessarily notify their medical insurance. My parents did it when they broke up. They weren't legally divorced, so he could still cover her. So just because people break up does not mean, but with the domestic partnership, there is an actual form, an affidavit that Suffolk County does say, we would like this for the dissolution of a domestic partnership. So I have that. The domestic partners also get a card. I've been married for a long time. I never got a card.
You got your marriage certificate.
But you got a card that you carry around. So I will leave that with you. I think at this point in time, in 2018, I don't see why we do not provide medical insurance for a legal domestic partnership. If Suffolk County has people go through these steps and provide all this information, and it's quite a list of what they need to provide in order to get recognized. I don't see why we can't provide them. If they're already carrying family insurance, a family plan, why can't they include their partner on that family plan?
Thank you, I'm gonna pass this over to,
I
well, get it.
brought that up at your suggestion last year, so I'm in total agreement with you. So that was a question that was not addressed last year.
I was
It should be,
asked for
right.
additional information. It kind of fell off my
Thank
radar
you for
a
giving
little
my
bit.
additional information.
So now here's your information, and I hope we can put something in place. I don't know what the amount of people in the district that it would affect, that would even be interested, but I know we have some. And we should be able to do that for our employees.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Okay, so a couple of things. What is the progress on the doors? The situation on the doors, is that still being taken care of? Is it out to bid? Is it, I know it's included?
Linda, you wanna address that?
I'm gonna ask Mr. Allen to address it because he would have to.
Sure. That would be a great question for the architect who is here, but I can tell you for a fact that he took the plan as it was discussed in this room, submitted those documents to SED, we're waiting for them to do the full review. We expect to have it in a few weeks. Once we have that review, we'll sit down and we'll make a determination as to how we're going to craft the bid to capture the projects to the best of everybody's, to the liking of everybody, and then we'll award it and start doing the work of the meetings.
And then to touch base on the in-school suspension, is that something we'll be updated with? Will we get updates as how the program's going, how the kids are responding? That's something I would like to hear. Because I think when you think about bullying, a lot of those kids are gonna be the ones that are involved in that program, the ones that are being bullied or the bulliers. And I think that's something that even giving them a project to work with their hands can give a kid something that they might be looking for, and I'd like to hear a little bit about that. So will we get updates on that?
Can we think about how we're gonna do that? I think it's a great
Even
idea.
in a board meeting, just
I
like,
don't know
hey,
the
you
best
know.
way or when just yet,
Right.
but I think that's a
Because I
really
thought
great
the
plan.
presentation that was given was great, so maybe even just a presentation as to how it's going and every 6 months, how it's going, how the kids are responding, something like that I'd like to hear. Do we have a DARE program in our school
We
district?
used to, my kids went through it and they loved it, just saying.
That's something, I mean, I went to school, it was like kind of on the tail end of my generation, when my sister and my brother went through that program, and I heard nothing about DARE from them growing up. And I think that that was a very big program, and I think it did involve a lot of children, and because it wasn't just kids who were selected, it was incorporated almost into the curriculum. It was everywhere, and I think that in today's day and age, with the academics that we have, that is something that should definitely be looked at as being incorporated and not a club, but actually like the kindness program, like, you know, kids need that these days, more than ever than ever.
Police that discontinued that program, not the school districts.
But I think even as a district, we could look into something like that, you know, or like a kindness campaign, something that, like I said,
There's education programs in different buildings. Every building has their own, like in OBMS, they design their own character education motto, and it's all based on the code of conduct that they tailored it to middle school, and I think even you remember it being something like, yeah, they had a little slogan, yeah.
but can I be a little bit honest on my own experience as a kid, okay? I had very good parents. I grew up in Middle Country District, okay? I went off the wayward path a little bit for a while. I was the bullied kid. I was always the taller girl. I was made fun of. Even now in Sesame Place last weekend with my family, I was made fun of standing next to Big Bird. It happens. It's every day. And those programs, believe it or not, most of the kids that are involved in them are the popular kids. And kids like me that didn't fall in the popular scheme because I went against the tide, I was never asked to be included because I didn't fit in the girl clique. So things like that, we really need to take it, like, as adults, you need to take that into consideration and look for the kid that's wayward.
look for the kid that's not included, and maybe as adults, bring them in, because if it's the kids that are popular, that are running those programs, the kids that are in the shadows are never gonna be included, ever. And I had a fight for inclusion growing up, and it's not a good feeling, and it's not a good feeling for kids, and now, as an adult, I've learned to cope with it. But I know I will never allow my daughters to be the one that's out in the shadows, but a lot of the times, the teachers are the ones in the front line seeing it. So if it's run by kids in the school, they're not gonna be including those kids that are being the ones made fun of. Just, something to really think about, who's running the programs then.
And you touch on something which was part of my board goal, was the coping skills. I don't think children are,
They don't have them.
And I think it's very important to teach them.
Absolutely, even if things like that, kids don't, at home these days, kids are not being taught your moral compass. They're not being taught that most of the time. Parents are disconnected, not all, but most. They're not taught that anymore. Where back in the day, teachers were able to instill that, it's a very fine line these days. So I think as a community, if you work together with the teachers and the parents, and also guidelines for the kids of even just simple things of if you see somebody drop something, pick it up and help them. That could go a long way. If it's instilled in the elementary schools and it follows through to the middle school and the high schools, that's like sweeping the parking lot. Give it to the ISS kids. Working with your hands could do wonders for those kids. I'm not joking. Let them sweep the parking lot a day in the heat. They'll be thinking twice about bullying a kid.
I have to tell you something really fast. There was a time that my oldest daughter, who's now 21, thank God, she wrote on the bathroom wall in Duffield. She wrote her initials with a heart and whoever the boy was at that time. And she got in trouble, and she came home and she cried and she told me. And I took her in my car, and I brought her up to Duffield, and I asked Lisa if we could take the soap and a sponge, and I brought my own soap and my own sponge, and I wanted her to go wipe it off. She wasn't allowed. She wasn't allowed to do that. The maintenance men had to do that. So I made her go home and clean the bathroom, which was even worse, especially after my husband was done with it. But yeah, I agree with you on that. I just wanted to tell you that one.
Kids, I think that as educators and a community, if the parents aren't going to do it, then at least I think we've lost that part of that in the education process.
During the day either, so
Yeah.
I need to do all that stuff too.
Yeah.
I get it.
Especially now everybody's working, both parents, I think incorporating stuff like that back into the school districts could be huge for kids. They really do.
Thank you.
Wanted to touch bases on two other things. I believe the last school year, it was approved for the community service part up at the high school? Or was that, it was not?
No.
Okay. I just wanted to find out what we might have to do in addition to graduation. The second part, you guys had asked as far as walk around, and as part of the committee, I don't know if I asked John or if I asked you guys if I would be included.
I would love it.
I have no problem.
Because the committee formed and you guys did your tours, but I wasn't part of it. So I'd like to see.
Absolutely, I'll send the invite out to the entire committee, because I think,
Just don't make it like 7 o'clock in the morning.
you can dictate it as people, accompany us.
Don't let her dictate. She's up at night, she's a night owl. I'm not.
Okay?
I'd rather
No,
be at
yeah,
7
she's
o'clock
up
in the
till
morning.
3,
Yeah.
goes crazy.
But I do think,
December, when we'll be there.
I do think having committee members, if they're willing to join us,
Okay.
is beneficial, because they can apply the conversations to what they see and share that as well.
Yeah, I would like that. That would be great to get the insight from the committee. I'm good with that, yes.
I'm fine, I just don't want to be on it.
There's only 12 on the
saying.
I don't know how many on the committee.
Okay, does anybody else have anything left to say for public participation? Okay, moving on to financial matters. We have items 2 and 3, claims audit report of May 2018, and claims audit report of June 2018. We didn't ask if there is any questions on either.
I don't have any questions on that.
Okay, so I'm going to take a motion in a second.
Motion.
Just say second.
Okay, you
All in
can say-
favor?
Aye. Is
Okay,
that good?
that's
That's an aye.
okay, we're moving on to personnel matters. Resignation, termination, leave of absences, I'll take a motion in a second.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to Schedule 2, appointments and new salary. I'm gonna take a motion, but I actually have, I have a question. So I'm gonna motion, I need a second.
Motion.
Okay, we need a second motion. All right, so I was actually looking through the appointments, and I noticed, I was referring to clubs of last year versus clubs of this year that are on the approval list. Now, I do know that there were several clubs, I want to say 4, that were added part of the budget cycle. I remember sign language being one of them. Music theory, I believe you guys, is this on here for the new one? Is music theory included on this new club list?
I don't believe it is. What we need to do with the clubs at this point, the new ones, is simply sit down with the CPA. I got a note from the high school principal, Mr. Constable, who was working with Michelle Locks. The CPA has been very good about this. We just have to establish equivalence. To say, for example, music theory club is similar in terms of number of participants, frequency of meetings, duration of meetings to the X club. And then they will during the stipend, we'll give it back to you for an approval for that.
Okay, so with sign language, music theory, programming club, that was the new one, right? Or was that, because I don't think programming was on last year. So I have to assume that that was one of the new clubs, unless it,
There were 3 subjects. That was one of them.
okay.
I had some notes upstairs.
Okay. Now, I also noticed that anti-bullying club is missing. We talk a lot about bullying. Are we bringing back the bullying club, or is that disbanded?
I'll check with Mr. Constable, make sure there's interest in it.
Okay, breaking boundaries, the same thing. Has that been disbanded?
It's on there.
Oh, sorry, it is on there. Ninth grade advisor. We don't have anybody listed for ninth grade advisor.
Could be they don't have anybody who expressed interest yet. Some of them will come a little bit later. There are some where we have to wait for the start of the school year so that the principal, the AP, can actually try to generate some interest from the faculty.
Gotcha. I also have another question. What is a scholastic coordinator? It wasn't on there last year, but it's on there this year.
What happened is, again, they didn't have interest. Scholastic coordinator takes care of the testing, the SATs, SATs.
So would this help also with the board role of aligning math and science regions prep? Or that's something so?
This is just the,
Yeah.
That's new this year.
no, it was a position that wasn't filled last year.
It was not filled last
So
year.
how did we do it? What did we do then?
We didn't need it last year, what
Well,
do we?
It's not that it when the APs counted. The
What do they
guidance
do?
counselor who used to do it, decided that that person didn't want to do it.
What is our time, what is our duties?
I'm sorry.
Paying him a separate salary to do that, or was it included in his jobs? It's included with
It's
it.
just assigned to the last year, that's all.
So now we're creating another position.
No, it's a position that existed, but what happened was they couldn't do without, so the principal asked someone to step into the bridge
And handle it.
and handle
And
it.
it worked out fine.
It worked out okay.
What are we paying the person now?
Good, I have the choice.
You're paying $3,600, I'm sorry, $3,063. The other thing I remember also was the admin team. I remember that being approved last year.
What'd you
Yeah.
say, what's it?
Admin, the admin. When is that, what season does that start?
Spring.
That is in spring. Okay, so I'll look for it in spring. I also noticed civic. That's a big one. I guess it goes back to what you were saying about that piecemeal, so to speak. Does anybody else have any?
I do. The What's 3N? Mine is not scrolling for some reason. No, 3N first. 3N.
Oh, yeah, I believe I gave you a written response to that. At OBMS, there's
It's
points.
like 18 emails, I couldn't
Oh,
get them all.
right. Yeah, I'll be
together.
happy.
Well, we have a consensus now to put that on a Google document so that I can see all the answers at once. Because I had like 25 pages of questions.
Right, we'll go on a Google Doc now that you have consensus.
Right, okay, good. So can you just explain to me again the
Sure.
3N?
At OBMS,
Right,
there's a part-time teacher, .6,
Oh, right.
teaching business.
right. 'Cause
At
now-
Ron, there's a .4 teacher, teaching business. But that person is also a .6 at the high school, a full-time
Full-time, right,
deputy
we did,
teacher.
I remember that one. Okay, you answered the one about the club advisors. There was 10 hours of prep, 5H. I don't think I got an answer for 5H.
Yes,
That was the one.
he's part of the chairperson's unit, and only 6 people in the unit, but they were allowed up to 10 days of work during the summer at 1,200 with salary, part of the contract.
Prep. There was a lot of responsibilities that I saw that were duplicated, like, so for one position, it had some duties on it that also were the jobs of some of the APs at the high school level.
I'll be happy to check in.
And you gave me the job duty list. So yeah, you can check that in.
Sure.
And then we have summer school coordinators. Monica, this I didn't get to look at your list. I didn't have a chance today. Can you answer? We have summer school coordinators, but we don't have summer school. Is it special education?
It's special education related, although we don't have summer school per se, we have extended school year. So some students are on a 12-month IEP, they receive extended school year from July 2nd through the second week of August. We have 2 locations, Foxy and the high school. We have an ESY, or especially an extended school year coordinator at Foxy, and the high school to supervise.
Okay. And then did you also answer the family wellness day?
I did, it's in your
With this
response.
thing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
There was one person said now for personal reasons, and another person took their place.
Okay. You gave me that wellness day. I just want to make sure I'm not asking you the duplicate question. Dean, you answered me on the tech integration specialist, thank you. You answered me on the science Olympiad and math question. Lindy, you're gonna get me some information on the advisors. I asked you a follow-up question on that. There was 10th, 11th, and 12th grade advisors, and there was a big discrepancy. You were gonna get me the, well, I followed up with another question.
Okay. Today?
So if you can get that. 5B. Uniforms. Can you tell me, don't we provide them? You wrote that we do,
For
so
security?
why, yeah.
No, we give them $8 allowance for it.
But don't we have the jackets and the shirt in a big bin? Don't we have those?
I'm sorry?
The jackets and the shirts in a big bin?
They are told to wear certain shoes, they're told to wear certain pants. They don't get reimbursed for any of that.
So that's what that's for. It's not, because I saw a bunch of jackets and shirts that said security, the yellow jackets with, so I'm
They get-
curious.
They get $50 a year to pay for their pants that they wear.
If that's what it's for, then I'm okay with that. I thought it was for the security jackets that we already provide. Okay. I don't know. All right. There was one other thing that I gave, there was 6, we're not on the consent agenda. Yes, we are, right? We're on the hiring. Sorry. So there was 6 names, Bob, that I told you about, that you were checking the credentials on. Did you see that?
Was that the one where, you wanted to know what pending?
Yeah, there were 6 of them, and there's a lot that are pending right now.
Let me, what,
And you told me that February and September.
I think that was Dr. Adams, but I didn't choose.
Okay, so February and September. So now I look back for last year, and 6 of those people were in that position last year. So should we have gotten their credentials in February or September?
Well, there's another element to that.
Okay.
The element is, most frequently, if someone graduates in May, they don't get a final transfer until July. They have to send it up to Albany, and then they have to wait for the state to review it and issue the certification.
Okay, there's,
Beyond that, and I have to check on the specifics
yeah,
of
you
these
need
people.
to check those names
But
because some of
people-
them have been here for a couple of years.
Yeah, we have one poor soul who keeps failing the content specialty test.
But we still have them as
We're
assistants.
still having, yeah, what happens is, according to state regs, as long as you're actively pursuing certification, which means you're either taking 6 credits a semester or re-registering for the written exams, you are allowed to continue up to 50 days.
Up to 50 days, but we're talking about years here.
No, 50 days, yeah.
50 days a year.
Mhm.
So we're allowing these people who are failing to be assistants for another 50 days for
Correct.
years,
Correct.
for years and years and years.
Now, if the board decides otherwise, we can certainly change that latitude that we give them.
Are you comfortable with that, Lynn and Mark?
Subs. These are per diem subs, not
Right.
aides.
But I happen to know a couple of them that work a lot.
They're
So
allowed,
they're working their 50 days even though they're failing their thing. So what kind of education are they giving our children? They can't pass their exam.
we as well as many districts all around, in fact, all are always looking for subs. So do I expect that a per diem sub is going to, that is certified in science is going to be able to go into a physics class maybe and teach that? Maybe. But if they go into a calculus class, they're going to provide the lesson plan that the teacher has given. Whatever that happens to be, usually that's pretty self-contained. So for a
Can
per
you find
diem,
out about those 6 names, what class content they teach?
Sure.
Because I don't think it's that, I think it's on the elementary level. I don't think it's that high end.
Well, one of the things you should know is New York State allows any substitute teacher to teach out of certification. So for example, I can get someone with a birth through 6 certification who will say, give me everything with AP Physics, and I can follow the lesson plan. And then we have others who say, I'm sorry, I want to stick with linear certification. So they do have that latitude.
And that's a law?
The state
Or is that
law.
just,
state regs.
that's state, okay. All right, that's all I got. For that part anyway.
All right, so we have a motion and a second, all in favor? Okay, moving on to consent agenda,
Oh,
reading it.
Very quickly, welcome to new teachers that you just, new two special education teachers here tonight. We have Caitlin in the back, right? Special education at Cherokee. Welcome. And then we have Jessica over here, and she's special education at Boston. Welcome.
I'll go to the craziness that is good. I'm sure that is.
Okay, we're gonna take a motion and a second on items 2 through 19 on the consent agenda, and then we'll have a discussion. If you have any questions? 22?
No, I had.
Or 19?
That's okay. My error.
Is it 19 or 22?
It's 19, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna take a motion and a second.
Motion.
Okay, any discussion or questions on
I have-
items 2 through 19?
Yeah, I have no things, not a lot, I promise. So, where's that? That's not on the second agenda. Nope, I don't have anything, I lied.
You don't have anything?
No,
Okay,
no, I have nothing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now we're moving on to public comment, same rules apply.
Before public comment though, can I just make a comment? On something else?
Yes.
I don't know where my screen starts going right now. I just wanted to say that I found out that we have some kids working over the summer. Monica, I think that's Fabulous. When did that start? Have we always done that?
Yes, we've done it for many years. We've done it as long as I'm here, and I'm sure it predates. And I
Okay.
think they were board approved either in April or May, but I don't remember. I don't.
So how many, right, that's my, how many? How many do we have working on?
I would have to get back to you with that number.
Okay.
But we have students throughout the district.
So, but it's mostly special education children?
I was never be able, I can't identify who's working at your city.
No,
We
no,
have
that's
students-
fine.
We have students working
So I
within
wanted
the
to know
district.
how we pick them, so, to work. Do they
They
apply?
apply, and there is some students.
How do they know about this program? Because if it's gone on for many years, I never knew that, any child could apply. I think that's great. But I think we need to get that information out there so that more kids can do that. I know it's not a lot of money, what do we pay them? Am I allowed to do that?
I believe, I don't know the number directly off the top
Oh,
of
so
my
I
head.
think it's $11 an hour.
Yeah.
Which is nice for a high school kid to work over the summer.
It is.
Now, so I'd like to know, like, again, how we apply and if we can get the word out to other people. And also, why can't we continue that like throughout the year, like maybe an after school thing? They could work for the district doing the same kind of things. And expand that, that's awesome.
I'd like to look into that for you.
Can we do that? Mylin?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We're opportunity.
Right. Okay, good.
Great job.
Oh, I did have something on the
Thank you.
consent agenda. Can I go back to consent agenda? Is Winston's contract on that? We did, we
Ask a question.
I just want to ask you a question. Winston's, they canceled us, right?
They opted not to extend under the old contract.
Like the old contract. So here's my question. What's the difference in their new bid
Oh, yeah, it's right.
to their old bid? I can't believe I just found the paper, and I can't believe we already did that. So what is the difference now? How much more money do they want?
Breakfast was at 96 cents a meal.
Now
Under
it's
the
at,
old, $1.26.55. Lunch was at $1.16.21, just say $1.16. And now it's at $1.45.
so in big numbers, in the overall contract, what was their, what was our old contract? Because I know the new one is 692,000 or something? Pippin? Sorry, I apologize. I'm new. I cursed.
Oh, you heard? I didn't even notice.
Oh, thank
I
God.
don't hear it anymore.
That, I don't know if that's good or bad.
Me neither. I'll do the math. I'll say.
Yeah, so what was the old number, what was the new number? So
Does
the
it
total?
extend that? Well, it's a different estimated number of meals, so let me
Oh.
just do the.
All right, so we can go on, I just wanted to know those numbers. I know we have no choice right now until we get a director maybe that you're looking into, but I thought that was pretty shady of them. Okay,
And they did that with a lot of districts, the state does that.
and it stinks that we have to take them because they're still the lower one.
Exactly.
Okay, moving on to public participation, the same guideline is followed. Does anybody has anything to say? Going once? Going twice? Ed? I'm surprised you have any questions for John. What?
I can talk if you want.
Oh, we love to hear you.
We want to hear you sing and dance and entertain us.
Okay.
We love it.
Jenny was supposed to sing and dance the first thing, she didn't. That's right.
Okay, so,
Without a doubt, you're gonna do some walking.
yes, a lot of walking.
Really what you have to do is separate wants from needs.
That's what we have, that's what I asked.
Can I still public comment or no?
You got me before my speech.
I just want to know, I know that I've been the thorn in the side. There was an article in the paper about the success with the armed guards in the Mount Sinai School District. And so my question is that something that we're now, that I've not mentioned in the last couple of meetings, that we're not just hoping I shut up forever about it, or are we still considering this?
Well,
I know that there's other options like camera upgrades. Are we going to, if we're not going to harm the guards, are we going to increase our staff? Because I do feel that if we're not going to put a armed guard on our campus, then we definitely tenfold need. I mean, our elementary schools have 2 security guards. That's not enough. So that's my question, is if we're not going to arm the guards, then are we going to increase our security staff? I know the doors are great, I'm very happy that's incorporated, I don't want to sound like a spoiled brat, but I just want to know that are there still security discussions? The reason I ask is, just to give you a quick synopsis, I'm now part of a Long Island Coalition intra-district. We met last Saturday, we're having Doug Smith meet with us. There's a lady, I can't remember her name, she's in West Islip School District's their assemblywoman, I'm gonna say that, and another one from the North Shore. So we've gotten a couple of districts now together with parents that are looking, and we're going to take it, pretty much what we're looking for is that in New York State, as you know, the state comes and audits you every year. In that audit, security is not included. It is not a criteria that has to be met. It is not something that is even on the discussion. And Governor Cuomo's office has ignored me 10 times, and they will still continue to ignore me, apparently. But that is something that I just want to know our district is still incorporating that as security is something that is not just, okay, it was popular, the 10 crazy parents, and now there's just one, but something that I am working for across Long Island, getting other parents to get it as something that should be, in our assessment or audit or whatever they come down, that should be something that's a criteria as our security.
One thing I can say, being on the board for the last couple of years, anytime, and I think Don Flynn, you can agree to this, that anytime Don Flynn asks for something or wants to upgrade to something, I don't ever recall ever giving you a problem. He always had carte blanche to. Yeah, he always had carte blanche. It was going to be to improve security. Absolutely, we never questioned it. We said, okay, as long as it protects our children. And he doesn't go to sleep at night because he's always thinking of better ways to protect our children. So if he knows of a device out there that's going to increase security, I'm sure he'll bring it to our attention.
Okay.
Also, just so you know, I'm trying to find it now, Doug Smith gave me a piece of paper with a law about arming guards and the restrictions that we have right now for that salary cap that they have. So it specifically mentioned something about arming guards and the salary cap. I can't find the paper now, of course.
Well, there was the thing that was passed through the Senate, but Suffolk County has not implemented for school resource officers. But that doesn't have to do with the salary cap.
This is not,
We discussed it,
I found the
right?
one for the salary.
That's another thing that we're working on, is pressuring New York State to get that as a law. That, that it's something that they can't say, well, we're not gonna participate in it, so. I just wanna know that it's still on the table and that you guys still discuss what.
Of course.
We didn't discuss it as a new board yet, but we'll bring it up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, Don keeps us posted on.
Okay, that was, thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay, I need a motion to second to move it to exec session for the Board of Education to executive session in accordance with Open Meetings Law, Section 105F, which might ministry of particular persons, confidential and exempt under Open Meetings Law, legal advice from the board's attorney.
Motion.
Second. All in favor, take a 5-minute recess and we'll meet at exec.